Have you ever been speaking English and suddenly felt as if someone switched off the lights inside your mind? 1 second, you know what you want to say. The next second, everything disappears. The words are gone. The grammar is gone. Even the simple sentences you have practiced many times seem to hide from you. Someone asks, "What did you do yesterday?" You understand the question perfectly. You know the answer. You remember your day, but your mouth stays silent. Your heart begins beating faster. Your face feels warm. Your mind starts shouting, "Say something. Say anything." But the more pressure you feel, the emptier your mind becomes. Then, a few minutes later, when the conversation is over, the perfect answer suddenly appears. "I should have said that. I knew that word. Why could I not remember it?" Maybe this has happened to you many times. Maybe it happens during meetings. Maybe it happens in class. Maybe it happens when a stranger speaks to you. Maybe it even happens with people you know. And after every difficult conversation, you begin questioning yourself. Is my English really improving? Why can I understand so much but say so little? Why do I forget everything when someone is listening? You may believe your vocabulary is too small. You may think your grammar is weak. You may tell yourself that you need another course, another book, or another 1,000 words. But what if the real reason your mind goes blank has very little to do with how much English you know? What if your English is still inside you, but fear is temporarily blocking the door? What if the problem is not knowledge? What if the problem is pressure? I want you to imagine something. Imagine that all the English words you know are books inside a large library. When you feel calm, the lights are on. You can walk through the library. You can find the right shelf. You can choose the book you need. But when someone suddenly asks you a question, fear enters the building. The lights begin flashing. An alarm starts ringing. People are running. And now you are trying to find one small book in the middle of the noise. The book is still there. It did not disappear. But your brain cannot find it easily, because your attention is busy dealing with fear. This is what happens to many English learners. They believe their language disappears, but often their language is still available. Their nervous system has simply moved into a state where access becomes more difficult. That means the solution is not only learning more English. The solution is training your brain to stay available while you speak. It is learning how to think under pressure. It is learning how to begin before the perfect sentence arrives. It is learning how to continue when one word is missing. It is learning how to remain calm while your English is imperfect. Because confidence is not the ability to speak without mistakes. Confidence is the ability to keep speaking while mistakes are possible. Think about the last time your mind went blank. What happened first? Maybe someone asked you an unexpected question. Immediately, you started searching for the perfect answer. You tried to translate the entire idea from your first language. You checked the tense. You worried about pronunciation. You imagined the other person judging you. You remembered an old mistake. You noticed the silence becoming longer. And now, instead of answering one question, your brain was trying to solve 10 problems at the same time. No wonder it froze. Your mind was not empty. It was overloaded. This is important. A blank mind is often not a mind with nothing inside it. It is a mind carrying too much at once. Too much grammar, too much fear, too much self-monitoring, too much pressure to sound intelligent, too much attention on the other person's face, too much worry about what may happen if you make a mistake. Your brain has limited attention. When most of that attention is used for fear, very little remains for communication. That is why you may speak better alone. When you are in your room, the words come. When you record yourself, you can create sentences. When you write, your ideas look clear. But when a real person is waiting, everything changes. The English is not completely different. The emotional situation is different, and that is hopeful. Because emotional reactions can be trained. You can teach your brain that speaking English is not an emergency. You can teach yourself that a pause is not a disaster. You can learn that one forgotten word does not destroy a conversation. You can practice beginning with simple language before fear becomes stronger. You can build recovery phrases that keep you moving. You can stop demanding perfection from the first sentence. You can create a safer relationship with your own voice. And little by little, the blank moments become shorter. You may still pause. You may still forget words. But you stop panicking. And when panic becomes smaller, language becomes easier to reach. Let me ask you a question. When you speak your first language, do you always know the complete sentence before you begin? Probably not. Sometimes you begin with, I think. Then you discover the rest while you are speaking. Sometimes you say, wait, let me explain. Sometimes you change direction. Sometimes you forget a word. Sometimes you use a simpler expression, but you do not call yourself a failure. You continue because you trust your ability to find another path. In English, many learners believe they must see the entire road before taking the first step. They want the complete sentence, perfect grammar, perfect pronunciation, the perfect word. And because perfection takes time, silence grows, then fear grows, then the mind goes blank. The first change is to stop waiting for the whole sentence. You only need the beginning. Someone asks, what do you think about working from home? You do not need a complete speech. Begin with, I think working from home can be helpful. Now your voice is moving. Your brain has a direction. Then you can add, one reason is that people save time. Then, for example, they do not have to travel to work every morning. The answer grows one sentence at a time. You did not create it all before speaking. You created it while speaking. That is real communication. Real speech is not a finished product that appears from your mind. It is something you build in the moment, and you can learn to build it without panicking. But before we talk about the practical methods, I want you to understand something deeper. Your fear of going blank may itself be making you go blank. When you enter a conversation thinking, I hope my mind does not become empty, your attention begins searching for danger. You listen to yourself too carefully. You judge every word. You watch the other person's reaction. You notice every pause. A normal moment of hesitation suddenly feels like proof that something is wrong. Then the thought appears. It is happening again. That thought creates more fear. More fear reduces access to language. Reduced access creates more silence. And the cycle continues. Fear predicts the blank. The blank confirms the fear. The fear becomes stronger next time. To break this cycle, you need a different interpretation. When your mind slows down, do not say, I have forgotten all my English. Say, my brain needs a moment. When a word does not appear, do not say, I cannot speak. Say, I can explain it differently. When you make a mistake, do not say, now they think I am stupid. Say, the message is more important than one mistake. These thoughts are not meaningless positive words. They change the instructions your brain receives. One message says, danger. The other says, continue. And continuation is the skill we want to build. Imagine you are crossing a river using stones. You do not need to see every stone from the beginning. You find the first one, then the next one, then another. A conversation works the same way. One sentence, one response, one clarification, one example. If you stop because you cannot see the other side clearly, you remain where you are. But if you trust the next small step, you keep moving. This is why simple English is so powerful. Simple English gives you strong stones. I think, I feel, in my experience. One reason is, for example, I am not sure, but what I mean is, these phrases may look ordinary, but when your mind feels pressure, ordinary language can save the conversation. You do not need an advanced bridge. You need one that holds your weight. Maybe you have been embarrassed by a blank moment before. Maybe someone asked you a question, and you could not answer. Maybe they repeated it slowly. Maybe they looked confused. Maybe you felt small. That memory may still enter new conversations. Your brain remembers emotional experiences. It tries to protect you from repeating them. So before you speak, it becomes alert. But protection can sometimes become a prison. Your brain says, be careful. You become so careful that you cannot move. The way out is not waiting for fear to disappear. The way out is having many small speaking experiences where you feel fear and continue anyway. Every time you survive an imperfect answer, your brain learns something new. I paused, but nothing terrible happened. I forgot a word, but I explained it. I made a mistake, but the person understood me. I felt nervous, but I finished my thought. These experiences slowly update your expectations. Conversation stops feeling like a test. It begins feeling like contact between two human beings. And communication has never required perfection. Think about a child telling a story. The story may be disorganized. The grammar may be incomplete. The child may repeat the same word. But you still understand the excitement. You still receive the meaning. Language exists to carry meaning, not to prove intelligence, not to perform perfection. not to protect you from every possible correction. When you remember this, the pressure becomes lighter. You do not have to impress the person. You only need to help them understand one idea. That is enough. So if your mind often goes blank, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are not too slow. You are not incapable of speaking English. Your brain may simply be reacting to pressure in a way it has practiced many times. And anything practiced can be retrained. Not overnight. Not through one motivational sentence, but through small, consistent changes in the way you prepare. Begin, pause, recover, and continue. The first skill is learning to create space before you answer. Many learners think they must respond immediately. Someone asks a question, and they believe silence means failure. So they rush. But rushing creates confusion. Give yourself permission to pause. A 2-second pause often feels much longer to you than it feels to the other person. You may experience it as an uncomfortable silence. The listener may simply experience it as thinking. Native speakers pause too. They say, "Let me think." They say, "That is a good question." They say, "I have never thought about that before." These phrases give time while keeping the conversation alive. Practice them. "Let me think for a moment. That is an interesting question. I am not completely sure, but I need a second to think about that." When you use one of these phrases, you are still responding. You have not failed. You have created space. Your brain can breathe. Your attention moves away from panic and back toward meaning. Imagine someone asks, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" Instead of forcing an immediate answer, say, "That is an interesting question. Let me think for a moment." Now breathe. Then begin simply. "In 5 years, I hope to have a better job." Continue from there. The pause did not damage the conversation. It supported it. The second skill is reducing the size of your first answer. Many people go blank because they try to say too much. The question is simple, but inside their mind, the answer becomes a large speech. Someone asks, "How was your weekend?" You think about Saturday morning, your family, the weather, the restaurant, the movie, your plans, and your feelings. Now you are trying to organize everything before saying anything. Make the first answer smaller. "My weekend was relaxing." That is enough to begin. Then add one detail. "I spent most of Sunday at home." Then add another if needed. "I watched a movie and cooked dinner with my family." Your answer can grow after it begins. Do not carry the whole conversation before taking the first step. Use the one-sentence rule. When someone asks a question, first give one complete, simple sentence. Only after that should you expand. "What do you do?" "I work in customer service." Then add details. "Most of my work involves helping clients solve problems." "Why are you learning English?" "I am learning English because I want better career opportunities." Then continue. The one-sentence rule gives your brain a clear target, not the perfect answer. One useful sentence that is manageable. The third skill is building automatic starting phrases. A blank mind often has ideas, but does not know how to begin. When the beginning is familiar, the rest becomes easier. For opinions, use "I think," "in my opinion," "from my experience." For explanations, use "one reason is," "the main reason is," "what I mean is." For stories, use "something interesting happened. I remember one time." Last week. For uncertainty, use "I am not completely sure, but it depends on the situation. I have not decided yet." Practice these phrases until they become automatic. Do not only read them. Use each phrase with 5 different ideas. I think daily practice is more useful than studying once a week. I think speaking slowly is completely fine. I think people learn better when they feel relaxed. Now "I think" becomes a door your brain can open easily. Then practice "one reason is." One reason is that repetition builds familiarity. One reason is that fear makes communication more difficult. One reason is that simple habits are easier to continue. You are creating pathways. During a real conversation, your brain does not need to invent the entrance. It only needs to choose the idea. The fourth skill is learning how to speak around missing words. A single forgotten word can make some learners abandon the entire sentence. They stop and search. The silence grows. Fear enters. Then more words disappear. Do not give one missing word that much power. Learn to describe. Suppose you forget the word receipt. You can say, "the paper they give you after you pay." If you forget appointment, say "a planned meeting," for example with a doctor. If you forget crowded, say, there were too many people. If you forget disappointed, say, I felt sad because it did not happen the way I hoped. This is real communication. You are not failing because you used a description. You are succeeding because you protected the meaning. Practice this skill at home. Choose an object and explain it without saying its name. It is something people use to protect themselves from rain. It is a place where you can borrow books. It is a machine that keeps food cold. This teaches your brain that there is always another path. When your brain believes alternatives exist, it panics less. The fifth skill is separating fluency from correction. Many learners try to speak, check grammar, judge pronunciation, choose advanced vocabulary, and monitor the listener at the same time. That is too much. During fluency practice, your main goal is continuation. Finish the idea. Do not restart every time you notice a mistake. Later, during correction practice, listen to a short recording and improve 1 or 2 sentences. For example, you record yourself saying, "Yesterday I go to market and buy some vegetables." Do not stop the story while recording. Continue. Afterward, listen. Correct it. "Yesterday I went to the market and bought some vegetables." Say the corrected sentence a few times. Then move on. One mistake becomes one lesson. It does not become a reason to destroy your confidence. When you separate these two types of practice, speaking becomes lighter. You know that the first round is for flow. The second round is for improvement. You no longer demand perfection from every moment. The sixth skill is practicing controlled pressure. Speaking alone is valuable, but real conversations include uncertainty. You do not know exactly what the other person will ask. You need to prepare for gentle surprise. Write 20 common questions on small pieces of paper. Mix them. Choose one without looking. Give yourself 3 seconds to begin the answer. Not 3 seconds to finish, 3 seconds to start. What is something you want to improve? Begin with, "I want to improve." What makes you feel relaxed? Begin with, "Something that helps me relax is." What did you learn recently? Begin with, "Recently I learned." The goal is not speed for its own sake. The goal is reducing the habit of waiting for perfection. You teach your brain to begin with what is available. You can also record questions on your phone and leave a short silence after each one. Play the recording later. Answer before the next question begins. Start with long pauses, then make them slightly shorter. Keep the pressure gentle. You are training, not punishing yourself. The seventh skill is using emotional regulation before speaking. Your body affects your language. When your shoulders are tense, your breathing is shallow, and your heart is racing, thinking becomes harder. Before a conversation, do something simple. Breathe out slowly. Relax your jaw. Drop your shoulders. Feel your feet on the ground. Then remind yourself, I only need to communicate one idea at a time. A slow exhale tells your nervous system that the situation is safer. You do not need to remove all nervousness. You only need to reduce it enough for language to remain available. During a conversation, breathe at the end of a sentence. Do not rush into the next idea. A small pause gives your brain time to organize. It also makes your speech sound calmer. Speaking slowly is not a weakness. Speaking clearly is valuable. Some learners believe fluency means speaking without pauses. But fast speech without control is not confidence. Confidence can sound slow. Confidence can include silence. Confidence can say, "Let me think." The eighth skill is practicing stories you truly care about. When a topic is personal, your brain already understands the meaning. You are not inventing the content and the language at the same time. Choose 5 stories from your life. A happy memory, a difficult day, a mistake that taught you something, a person who influenced you, a goal you are working toward. Tell each story several times. The first version may be simple. "I remember a difficult day at work." Then add details. "There was a problem with an important client." Then explain what happened. "I did not know how to solve it, so I asked my manager for help." Then add the lesson. "That experience taught me that asking for help is not a weakness." When you repeat the same story, the language becomes familiar. Later, if someone asks about a challenge you faced, your brain already has a pathway. You are not memorizing a speech. You are becoming familiar with your own experiences in English. This is powerful because much of conversation involves stories we have told before. What you do, where you are from, why you chose your career, what happened last weekend, what you hope to do in the future. Practice your real life, Your real life is your most useful speaking material. The ninth skill is learning response patterns instead of isolated words. A word may disappear under pressure. A familiar phrase often survives. Instead of only learning agree, practice. I agree with you. I completely agree. I agree to some extent. I understand your point. But instead of only learning unsure, practice. I am not sure yet. I need more time to decide. I have not thought about that before. Instead of only learning example, practice. For example, a good example is, let me give you an example. These groups become units in your memory. Your brain retrieves them together. This reduces the work needed to build every sentence from individual words. Choose 20 conversation phrases and use them every day, not by repeating them without meaning. Use them in different situations. That sounds interesting. That happened to me too. I understand what you mean. I have a different opinion. Could you say that again? Let me explain. Actually, I changed my mind. What do you mean by that? These phrases keep conversations moving. The more familiar they become, the less likely you are to feel trapped. The 10th skill is changing the way you listen. Sometimes your mind goes blank because you are preparing your answer while the other person is still speaking. You hear the beginning of their sentence. Then you stop listening. Your mind begins working on grammar. But when they finish, you are not completely sure what they asked. Now you have to understand and respond at the same time. Listen for the main idea first. Do not build your answer too early. Let the person finish. Ask yourself, what is the real question? Maybe they use many words, but the main question is simple. Do I agree? What happened? What do I want? How do I feel? When you identify the main question, begin with a direct answer. Yes, I agree. No, I have not tried that. I felt nervous at first. I would probably choose the second option. Then explain. A direct beginning reduces mental confusion. You know your position. The details can follow. You can practice this while watching interviews. Pause after a question. Identify the main idea. Answer it out loud. Then listen to the person's answer. This trains listening and response together. The 11th skill is reducing your fear of judgment. You may imagine that every listener is carefully examining your grammar. Most people are more interested in the message. They are thinking about what you mean, what they will say next, or how the conversation relates to them. Even when someone notices a mistake, the moment usually passes quickly. You may remember the mistake for 3 days. They may forget it in 3 seconds. Your fear creates a spotlight. It makes you feel as though everyone can see every weakness. But communication is not a performance under bright lights. It is an exchange. You give an idea. They receive it. They respond. Ask yourself, did they understand me? That question is often more useful than, was every sentence perfect? Clarity matters. Growth matters. Perfection is not required. The 12th skill is building a daily anti-blank routine. In the morning, answer 3 easy questions. How do I feel? What do I need to do today? What am I looking forward to? Speak for 1 minute. During the day, practice 5 instant reactions. This is taking longer than I expected. I need to remember that. That was easier than I thought. I am not sure what to do. I should ask someone. In the evening, tell 1 short story from your day. Then choose 1 sentence and improve it. This routine trains beginning, reaction, storytelling, and correction. It does not require a speaking partner. It does not require 1 hour. 10 or 15 focused minutes can be enough. The important thing is repetition. Your brain must experience successful responses again and again. Every answer becomes evidence. I can begin. I can continue. I can recover. I can express meaning. Confidence grows from this evidence, not from waiting, not from wishing, from completed attempts. There will still be difficult moments. Someone may ask a question you have never considered. A person may speak quickly. The environment may be noisy. You may be tired. Your mind may slow down. The goal is not to eliminate every blank moment forever. The goal is to stop treating the blank as the end. When your mind pauses, use a recovery phrase. That is a good question. Let me think about it. I have not experienced that personally, but I do not know the exact word. So let me explain. Then choose the simplest possible direction. 1 sentence, 1 idea, 1 example. The conversation can restart. Imagine you are asked, what is the biggest challenge facing young people today? You may feel overwhelmed. The topic is large. Do not search for a complete, intelligent speech. Say, I think one major challenge is financial pressure. Now you have chosen one direction. Add a reason. Many young people find it difficult to afford housing and education. Add an example. For example, some people work long hours, but still cannot save enough money. Your answer became strong because you made it smaller. Big questions can be answered through one small point. You do not have to explain everything. This lesson is important beyond English. Sometimes the mind goes blank because you believe the answer must be complete. But communication can be partial. You can share one perspective. You can say, that is only one part of the issue. You can admit uncertainty. I do not know enough about this to give a complete answer. Honesty is allowed. You do not need to pretend expertise. A natural speaker is not someone who knows everything. A natural speaker knows how to communicate what they do and do not know. You should also become comfortable asking for clarification. Sometimes your mind goes blank because you did not understand the question. But instead of asking, you pretend. You become anxious. Use simple clarification phrases. Could you repeat that, please? Could you say that more slowly? What do you mean by? Are you asking about my personal experience? So, you mean? Clarification is not a sign of weak English. It is a communication skill. Native speakers ask for clarification too. Noisy rooms, unfamiliar accents, complex topics, and unclear explanations affect everyone. When you clarify, you reduce uncertainty. Less uncertainty means less pressure. Less pressure means better access to language. Another helpful method is practicing the same answer at 3 levels. Take the question, why are you learning English? Level 1, I am learning English for my career. Level 2, I am learning English for my career because I want to communicate with international clients. Level 3, I am learning English for my career because I want to communicate with international clients. I also hope English will give me more opportunities in the future. This teaches you that answers can expand gradually. If your mind is nervous, use level 1. If you feel comfortable, continue to level 2 or 3. You always have a safe starting point. Practice common questions this way. What do you do on weekends? What kind of work do you do? What are your future goals? What is something you enjoy? What was a difficult experience you had? Each question gets a short, medium, and longer answer. This prepares you without forcing you to memorize one exact response. You become flexible. Flexibility reduces fear. You can also practice changing one detail. I went to the market yesterday. I went to the market last Saturday. I went to the market with my sister. I went to the market because I needed vegetables. The basic structure stays familiar while the meaning changes. This is how language becomes automatic, but not robotic. The pattern supports you. The details remain yours. Now I want you to think about the voice inside your head during a conversation. What does it say? Do not make a mistake. Hurry, they are waiting. That pronunciation sounded terrible. You are going blank. This voice uses your attention. It becomes another person speaking while you are trying to communicate. You need a simpler internal instruction. Choose one phrase, one idea at a time. Simple is enough. Pause and continue. Meaning first. Repeat it before speaking. When fear appears, return to it. Simple is enough. This phrase gives you permission to use language you trust. You do not need to win an award. You need to stay connected. Your inner voice should guide you, not attack you. Becoming your own supportive coach does not mean ignoring mistakes. It means creating conditions where you can practice enough to improve them. A learner who hates every imperfect sentence eventually becomes silent. A learner who accepts imperfection continues speaking. The learner who continues gets more practice. The learner with more practice improves. Kindness is not weakness. Kindness supports consistency. There may be moments when you truly cannot answer. That is allowed. You can say, I do not know how to answer that yet. I need more time to think about it. I have never considered that before. You are still communicating. Silence becomes a choice rather than a collapse. You remain in control. This feeling of control is important. Fear becomes stronger when you feel trapped. Recovery phrases, simple answers, clarification, and honest uncertainty give you options. Options make the situation feel safer. When your brain feels safer, it remains more available. Imagine yourself after 30 days of this practice. You still know roughly the same amount of grammar. Maybe your vocabulary has grown only a little, but something important has changed. You begin more quickly. You trust simple sentences. You use phrases to create thinking time. You explain around missing words. You recover after mistakes. You do not interpret every pause as failure. The result is not perfect English. The result is accessible English. Your English is there when you need it. That is what many learners truly want. Not the ability to pass another test. The ability to use what they know in real moments. After several months, the change becomes deeper. Common questions no longer feel dangerous. Your personal stories become easier to tell. Your response phrases appear automatically. Your body remains calmer. You listen more fully because you are not preparing in panic. You begin noticing the other person rather than only monitoring yourself. The conversation becomes less like an exam and more like a relationship. And one day, someone asks you an unexpected question. You pause. You say, "That is interesting. Let me think." You choose one simple point. You explain it. You forget a word and describe it. You make a small mistake and continue. The conversation moves forward. Later, you realize your mind did not go completely blank. Or perhaps it did for 1 second. But you knew what to do. That is the real goal. Not controlling every moment. Trusting yourself inside the moment. Confidence means knowing that even when the perfect sentence disappears, you can still communicate. You can pause. You can simplify. You can explain. You can ask. You can begin again. I want you to try a short exercise after this video. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Choose 5 questions. Answer each question using one simple sentence first. Then add one reason or example. When you become stuck, use a recovery phrase. Do not stop the timer. Do not restart from the beginning. Keep moving. At the end, write down one sentence you expressed well. Then choose one sentence to improve. That is all. One success. One improvement. Return tomorrow. Your brain changes through repetition, not through one perfect practice. Some days will feel easier than others. Do not let a difficult day convince you that the method is failing. Maybe you are tired. Maybe the topic is unfamiliar. Maybe your attention is divided. Continue with a smaller practice. Answer one question. Tell one story. Use one recovery phrase. Keep the pathway open. A small daily response is more powerful than a long session followed by weeks of silence. Remember the library inside your mind. The words are there. Your task is not only collecting more books. Your task is learning how to keep the lights on. Calm your body. Reduce the size of the answer. Use familiar starting phrases. Trust simple language. Create space. Recover when needed. Every one of these habits keeps the lights brighter. And when fear enters, you no longer run through the library in panic. You stop. You breathe. You choose one shelf. You find one useful book. One sentence. That sentence leads to another. The conversation continues. So the next time your mind goes blank, do not attack yourself. Do not say, "I cannot speak English." Say, "I need one small beginning." Use the phrase that is available. "I think, in my experience, let me explain. I am not sure, but..." Then say the simplest true thing. That is enough to restart movement. Your mind does not need to be full of perfect English. It needs a path forward. And every time you take that path, it becomes easier to find again. You are not trying to become someone who never feels nervous. You are becoming someone who can speak while nervous. You are not trying to become someone who never forgets words. You are becoming someone who can communicate without them. You are not trying to become someone who never pauses. You are becoming someone who knows how to use a pause. You are not waiting for fear to give you permission. You are teaching fear that it cannot control your voice. One sentence at a time. One conversation at a time. One imperfect but courageous response at a time. Your mind may still become quiet sometimes. Let it be quiet for a moment. Breathe. Remember that the words have not disappeared forever. Choose a simple beginning. Trust the next sentence. Then continue. Because the solution to a blank mind is not always more knowledge. Sometimes it is less pressure, more patience, smaller answers, stronger habits, and the courage to speak before perfection arrives.